Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Complicated Relationships Reddit Stories. Hope you guys are safe and healthy. Now let's see what we have in store for you today. It's almost time for my D-Day to mark 1 year. Let me tell you about my life with my cheating ex-wife. Well, this is a complete story, so stay with us until the end. Both of us are in our mid-40s. Since high school, we have spent over 30 years together. We have 2 teenage kids. For the majority of the last 15 years, my wife has chosen to be a stay-at-home mom, and I have worked hard in a demanding yet lucrative job to support our family. A few years ago, my wife and I went through the traumatic experience of the passing of one of our children. My wife struggled more than myself. I tried to remain strong for her and our other children. She had bereavement counseling, but that did not help her. Her mental state due to our loss was all over the place, and things got progressively worse with our marriage. Around 2 years ago, we had a massive drunken argument. I said lots of regretful things and called her names. I was stupid and immature. I did not apologize for my outburst, and this resulted in no intimacy and a lack of good communication. I turned to alcohol and I became depressed about the whole situation. This time last year, I was considering divorce. I wanted things to get better between us, but I knew we both had to change for that to happen. As a last throw of the dice, I suggested marriage counseling, but she declined. Still, I went to individual counseling. This helped me. I gave up drinking. I also lost weight and got into my best ever physical shape with lots of exercise. My mental health and attitude towards my wife improved. We were both happier. We had just started becoming intimate again, and it looked like our marriage could survive. So things were looking up again until by sheer chance I discovered her affair. In retrospect, there were lots of red flags, but I always trusted her and assumed she would never cheat on me. I did some snooping and confronted her with only a small amount of what I knew. Initially, the affair was denied and I got trickle truth. For example, she told me she had only kissed her AP a few times, but her story had lots of holes in it. I caught her totally off guard with the confrontation and my questions. The next day, I was all set to show her my proof that they had gone beyond kissing each other when she admitted to having unprotected relations on more than one occasion with the AP, but it was over now as he had finished it. The physical affair had started not long after our big drunken argument the year before. She came out with the classic line, "I still loved you, but was no longer in love with you." She recently told me that because of the arguments, she thought I no longer loved her when her affair started. This was not true. I did still love her, despite our problems, as she would have found out if we were communicating and had asked me. Following her confession, I took my wife's phone off her. She gave me the passcode and passwords to email and social media apps. I read all their available messages. There were gaps in chats probably removed just after she confessed to the physical affair, but by now I had pretty much the full story. I messaged the AP from my wife's phone to get his side of the story and to tell him that if he should carry on seeing my wife, things would get ugly. His story matched my wife's version. He had finished the physical affair due to the damage it would cause to both our families, and he wanted a life with his wife and not my WS. He told me what an amazing person my wife was. She had fallen for him, and that's when he ended it because it was getting too serious for him. He apologized to me and said that he would tell his wife what he had done. I told him that was up to him, as I didn't want someone else to suffer the pain I had suffered. I told him that if he ever saw my wife again, then I would tell his wife. I did not tell him to break off contact because I planned to install keylogger software on my wife's phone. Bear in mind that we were in the middle of lockdown at this point, so there was no way that they could see each other. For the next few weeks, they would message each other. My wife told her AP that I knew about them. The AP did not tell her that I had messaged him. It was amusing to watch this unfold. They were now having arguments and blaming each other for their affair. My wife, in an attempt to save our marriage or stop me from kicking her out of our house, was showing me love. but at the same time giving her APBS for using her and treating her badly. However, she also said she wished that they could see each other and chat properly about what had happened. She did appear to show remorse for how much her actions had hurt me. She admitted to me that she had been selfish. I asked her if she had ever cheated on me before, and she answered that with a subtle difference to the question, that it was her only affair. But I am now suspicious she had a one-night stand with a former boyfriend many years ago that I have no proof of. She said she had fallen back in love with me because I had changed for the better. But as we all know, actions speak louder than words, and you cannot believe a word that a cheater says. Even at this point, she was still sending messages to him, although they were innocent messages as they were discussing their hobby, which is where they first met and got to know each other as friends. I phoned a lawyer to discuss my options and see how things would look should we divorce. My wife overheard some of the conversation, and this seemed to wake her up to the reality of the situation. Soon after, my wife sent a final message to the AP telling him that she would not be chatting any longer and he was not to get in touch with her ever again. Contact between them did stop at this point. I gave her some boundaries and the consequences should she break them. One of the rules was no contact or seeing the AP ever again, and if he contacted her, to let me know. I told her if she broke that rule, I would divorce her immediately. She agreed to this. I told her she needed counseling to work on herself and find the reasons why she did what she did. She agreed, although she said she felt forced to go, but only went twice and then stopped, telling me she already knew the reasons for her affair, so she did not need any more counseling. I saw the same counselor a dozen times, and despite client confidentiality, my counselor did tell me that my wife was remorseful. This was a few months ago. My wife and I have been getting on better than ever. I do love her, but I have not forgiven her yet. There has been no contact between my wife and her AP, but I have reason to believe that may change shortly. Finally, given all that information, the questions I have are: 1. Does anyone think my wife has any chance of redeeming herself and remaining faithful to me, or should I run a mile? 2. Should she contact the AP again, as I suspect she will, even though it will be to chat about something innocent, should I file for divorce as she will have broken the no contact rule? And number 3, if divorce is not the answer, is there anything else she or I should do for a successful reconciliation? Alright, and with that we move on to a comment for this story. And the first comment is: "You seem very rational and thoughtful about the whole process, mate. But I cringed through the whole post. Everything you wrote cries out that she still loves the guy. You need to read your post again and again as though someone else wrote it to kind of get a different perspective. You need to tell the other wife, not because she deserves to know, which she does, but because you need to see your wife's reaction to that." To which the OP replied, "Thanks for the rational and thoughtful comment. I guess that's how I'm trying to deal with this now. I think she was madly in love with him or in an affair fog, but her attitude has changed. At one point, I did tell my WS that I thought the other BS should know, to see her reaction, and to check if she would message her AP, but she didn't." And now for the second comment. "Actions speak louder than words. I think her refusing therapy is a bad sign. Introspective thought is fun. It's not just about understanding her affair. Maybe her therapist can help her better communicate with you. Trust, but verify. Keylogger will be fun, but draining. Do you want to always be looking over your shoulder? It seems like that's where you're at, and judging by her actions is justifiable. What do you want? Write down your boundaries and give them to her, and watch her actions. Your answer lies there." To which the OP replied, "I had a session about communication with my counselor as this is a problem for both of us. I have had some thoughts on my next move now. A quick check to see if she has contacted him is all I need to know. Very interesting point in the end that you made. Some of the things she promised me not long after D-Day have already been broken. These are things she suggested, like not doing certain things without me." Now, here's the update to this story. I know my methods are a bit messed up, but my cunning plan was to try and get the whole truth about the affair and determine if our marriage could be saved. Not an easy thing to do when you cannot believe a word a cheater says. My wife could not see the AP, so I assumed she would contact him using her phone to tell him that I knew about the affair. For the next 6 months, whilst we were supposedly trying to fix things, I could, without my wife's knowledge, see their messages. Some brief highlights are as follows. They both lied to each other and they both blamed each other for the affair. He said their friendship crossed the line and he regretted what they did. My wife never said she regretted the affair. He cherished their moments together but also wanted to try and forget it ever happened. My wife told him that she hated him and that he had used her. He denied it. Other times she said that she missed him. She said that she was broken and she could not live with the hurt she had caused me. So at times she did display some signs of remorse. On several occasions she said that she would not be able to see him again and that she was not going to contact him ever again. But a few days later she would message him. During the last 6 months, I got myself into great physical shape. I had IC and there was hysterical bonding. My wife told me that she had made a huge mistake. She wanted a future with me. I meant the world to her and she had fallen back in love with me. I asked her if she could go back in time and change things and what would she do differently. Her reply was to not let a good friendship turn into an affair and fix things between us before the affair started. She told me that she would accept any consequences but begged me not to tell our children what she had done. Our children do not deserve to be hurt. The truth was, she did not want them to hate her. On the plus side, my WS did not say anything derogatory about me to the AP, at least not from the messages I have read, but she must have said stuff about our marriage to him previously. He said things like, I hope you can correct the things that were wrong between you two. I hope you can move forward, etc. On the negative side, my WS told him that I loved her and she was going to be okay, presumably because she thought I was not going to leave her. But she never said to the AP that she loved me. At one point, she got angry with the AP and said, all I need is my children. She never said that she needed me or loved me. 6 months ago, I thought reconciliation was going to be impossible. I rang a lawyer to discuss my options. My wife eavesdropped on some of the conversation. I don't know how much she heard, but this was the wake-up call she needed. At this point, her attitude changed and she finally broke off contact with the AP. I set some boundaries and consequences. The main one is no contact under any circumstances, otherwise I will divorce her, and she agreed to all my conditions. Given all the messages I had read between them, I was doubtful that she would not contact him again, but for 5 months she maintained no contact and things seemed to be going in the right direction between us. A few weeks ago, my wife discovered from a mutual friend of theirs that the AP has an incurable disease. I thought she would contact him, and sure enough, she did contact him. She has betrayed my trust yet again. The messages were innocent enough to begin with. She sent him positive thoughts. She hoped the treatment would be a success, but then she said, get better soon and look forward to seeing you. And the final dagger into my broken heart. She said, one last thing. Do you regret meeting me? The AP said, no. And she said, good, me neither. That's all, folks. I am done with her. There is nothing left worth fighting for. I know divorce is going to cause me and our children hurt and financial hardship. I know she has mental issues, but she is not willing to get help and I cannot force her. I know there is no point wasting any additional time trying to understand her actions, but I still wonder how she could do this to me and our children. I'm going to speak to a lawyer again, this time without her knowing, and get her served. I hope to get joint custody of our children. The starting point of the split of our financial assets will be 50-50, but I want to try and get more than this somehow. I will be receiving some inheritance once the house of my deceased relative is sold. I also have Bitcoin that I purchased a few years ago, and the value of this has increased to a nice amount of money. I also have a large pension pot. I hope to prevent my soon-to-be ex-wife from getting her hands on the proceeds. And that is the end of the story. Well, OP, you finally got there after having done the pick-me dance for far too long. In the end, she threw you under the bus. Unfortunately, the problem with reconciliation is that you not only fight your demons, but have to compete with the emotional attachment between WW and her AP. There are reasons why many people on this sub say no to stay with her, and it's because of their experience. Most have been through this and know that the love fog you have with your wife is just as strong as their cheating fog. But at least for you, lesson learned. Most WS never really get over their APs, and that's a fact. Good luck, my friend. Thank you all for listening. Please subscribe to the channel for more and take care.